Hello and welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that knows that good things take time, but progress comes quickly. I am your host, Patrick Keiser. And today we will have an interview with the founder and owner of 360 Retail Management, Daniel Tadros. Daniel will be talking about quick wins that retailers can implement in their store in order to increase sales and increase their efficiency and effectiveness, especially when it comes to technology. So looking at a lot of online sales, how to implement that with your website, how to really integrate lots of things through your social media, how to use AI, a lot of great tips in here. So I was really excited to be able to talk to Daniel about this topic. His company employs over 50 people that really this is their focus, how to help retailers become more efficient, have more effective businesses so that they can see more wins. In concept, this is kind of a big picture overview of a lot of these topics, but we did talk about having a follow-up conversation that we look at some more case studies and talk about exactly how do you implement these things and what the wins you can get out of this are. So without further ado, here is my interview with Daniel Tadros, where we're talking about quick wins for retail stores to increase efficiency and effectiveness. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Patrick, for having me. I'm really excited.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about 360 Retail Management and what has inspired you to start working with independent retailers?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I had some amazing story that kind of got me to where I am today, but in all honesty, it's a little bit boring. So forgive me for keeping that part a little bit concise. But basically, I had worked at what was the equivalent of an investment bank. And we had a lot of problems for our clients related to inventory, related to automation that we were trying to work on from a financing angle. While I was doing that, we ended up partnering with a few different automation firms, a few different global outsourcing firms, and solved some big problems for some pretty large companies. From there, I kind of split off and started doing something very similar for what I would say is the distributor world. And I realized that a lot of those problems that we were solving were applicable as well to independent retail. And actually, I want to give myself credit, but I actually didn't realize that myself. I was approached by a few independent retailers who had heard about some of the things that we'd solve, and they asked me to implement very similar systems. And just seeing that there was a recurring need and a recurring solution that we could provide was really how we ended up where we are today. So we've got 3 offices, over 50 employees, and I would say we really do 3 things really well. The first is we are kind of like a Shopify POS consulting agency. So how do we kind of optimize and integrate certain things? From there, we also have an AI implementation specialization. And then thirdly, we do have an offshoring consulting aspect of our business.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like that, kind of backing into working in retail is so relatable to so many people. There are few people that actually retail is my end goal, what I want to do. Oftentimes it is this I was doing something else and all of a sudden I've gotten into retail. So you're not alone in that story at all.
Cool. I'm glad. I'm glad that I'm one of many. That makes me feel a little better.
So when you were working with retailers, what are some things that you find as challenges or bottlenecks that you've seen with retailers recently?
Yeah, I would say, recently is just the amplification of what we have seen our problems for a longer period of time. I think it's no question nowadays that we're seeing, expected anticipatory inflation, changes in pricing, more tumultuousness in orders, receipts, confirmations, all that kind of stuff, bottlenecking our customers and retailers today. However, if you can think of that as an extension or how that is actually functioning now as a catalyst for investing more in making sure that your integrations are working properly, that the data around your orders is flowing into your system correctly, all of that kind of works full circle. So that's kind of what I was trying to mention earlier. Yeah. All those problems around how do we automate, how do we integrate, how do we kind of save time? are really, those problems are getting a little bigger, which makes the investment of time, the investment of money to do that kind of stuff a little more worthwhile.
Yeah. And I think why it's so important to be talking about those quick wins and what we can do to help retailers, and some simple ways that they can really improve their business. So one of the first things that you were talking about, and when we were speaking before, was making your POS system more efficient and more effective. So you talked about linking that, and especially to things like Shopify, and linking across different platforms. What are the must-have integrations that retailers should be looking at setting up right away?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different buckets here. I think the first one and the most obvious one is going to be all your social media platforms. We do see somewhat consistently, and it's unfortunately consistent, that a lot of our clients on day one, they haven't set up connections connected to their TikTok business account or to their Instagram business account. And so they're making regular posts about new promotions, new sales, but customers then have to then manually type in the item into Google or type in the item into their search bar of their website and find that item to buy it or to take part in promotions or sign up for a newsletter. And so not having those things linked up is free, first of all. It does not take a lot of time. But it is something that we're not doing correctly, creates a lot of friction, and there's a large opportunity cost there for missed out sales, missed out conversions, missed out interactions with potential customers. And I think that would be just one thing that I would really encourage retailers to really focus on, is just that upfront few minutes of time per social media platform. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, a lot of them out there, Twitter. So that'd be the bucket number one. The second bucket would be, to the extent that you can, setting up automations with the marketplaces and the vendors that you work with. So, for example, Shopify and mostly, particularly in the apparel and gift world, Faire, Jour, New Order, a lot of these marketplaces out there do have native integrations with Shopify that allow you to do stuff like pull the item information into your Shopify database, so that you're not manually creating a bunch of items all the time. Now, there are some shortcomings to that I will call out later, but the shortcomings do not outweigh the benefits here. The benefits of saving a lot of time, the benefits of being able to get all that information into your system quickly is extremely powerful, because if you don't have it on your website, you don't have it in your POS, you can't sell it.
Yeah. And you want to be manually entering all of that and using the hours and hours that it takes to do for every product within the store.
That's exactly right. I just think that these integrations, and I think this will be a recurring theme that we talk about during this episode today, is that having these integrations does not necessarily eliminate the need for you to think about what items and how you interact with customers, but it allows retailers, particularly those that are kind of short-staffed or that are smaller businesses, to then take on higher value work. Like, how do I create the right promotions for my customers? How do I interact with my customers? What do they actually want? What is the type of inventory I should be planning for next season? Not how do I make sure that everything's on my website and looks good, because I can't sell it if it's not there. Yeah,
exactly. So I love that. I mean, it is a little bit of work up front, but then it saves so much time later on by syncing your all your social media and bringing in that information from the vendors. So
exactly, and there's one more category that I'll call out here, and I'll call it the app world, right? There are, and I call out the first two primarily because your customers and your vendors really decide what other kind of apps are going to be needed for your business and the industry as well. But for example, there are a lot of customer service apps. There are free ones from Shopify, mind you. They're free. We're not trying to sponsor an app here. We're trying to just be really upfront.
No free ads. Yeah.
But there are ways to even integrate like your customer service by having your Instagram messages, your Facebook messages, your chat bot on your website all flow to the same place, so that you're not talking to people on 40 different platforms. You can send one message from one platform. It'll natively show up to wherever the message came in from. So you can talk from one app to respond to somebody on Instagram, one app to respond to somebody on Facebook, one app to respond to somebody on Shopify directly came to your website.
Yeah.
You email all these different platforms, a lot of ways to save time, if that makes sense. Those are the kind of things that I would really call out.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talked Shopify is one of those platforms that has an app. Are there others out there that have a similar function?
Yeah. So the most popular one, and we can talk about this one. This is kind of one of the AI apps is Tidio. Again, not meant to be a free
But
commercial,
yeah,
but Tidio is relatively easy to set up. They have a free version for you to test out based on volume of messages. As you have more volume, you kind of have to pay a little more.
okay.
But the point is that it does allow you to kind of upload an FAQ, then using an LLM, which is a large language model. It's a fancy way of saying an AI bot, will actually translate questions that are recurring and try and answer them with the FAQ in a personalized way.
Yeah.
And then from there, you do have the recurring list of questions that were not able to be answered that have to be answered by a person live. And you can see those recurring questions that the AI chatbot is not able to answer. And then you can update your FAQ over time so that similar questions then get routed to the right answer, right? So it is an iterative process, but at least if you know things like, hey, I'm sure, what's your return policy?
Yeah.
When is your store open? What are your hours? Things like that, those kinds of recurring questions that are obviously on your website, but some people like to ask the chatbot anyway.
Yeah.
You can at least have those answered in an automated fashion. And again, of course, to the extent that there are some questions that come up that are more specific to your store, about a specific promotion or things like that, you can then at least have updated answers to then guide customers to the right place.
Yeah, okay, that makes total sense. And be able to, have something built in where it's automatically answering those questions. Again, saves you time, allows you to focus on other things, and still provides good customer service.
Absolutely.
So another one of your quick wins was optimizing product listings. So we talked a little bit about that, getting information from your vendors, but you've talked about comparing the listing quality of some like the larger stores like a Macy's, a Kohl's, and what they're doing. Why is that standard so important for even small businesses?
Yeah, it's actually extremely important and something that a lot of retailers, I would say, particularly on the independent, smaller side, they kind of have a small oversight on that. Customers today are extremely savvy. I don't think it's news for me to say that. I think it's old news at this point.
Yeah.
They're extremely savvy. They're very price sensitive, and they're very sensitive to the quality of the information you provide them when you're trying to sell them something, right? The value add that used to be the historic hallmark of being in a retail store, be able to answer questions. Hey, these are the materials. This is where it's sourced from. Here's why it's great for you. That has now extended omnipresently into the online world, and customers expect that to be able to have that information at their fingertips. What is the item made of? Where was it from? A sizing guide that actually is specific to the item, not just one sizing guide for every single thing on your store, right? Making sure that your swatches are updated when they're clicked. So for example, if you have a red shirt and somebody clicks the blue swatch, the image should turn blue, right? And so things like that are extremely important because it gives the consumer or the customer confidence that they're buying the right thing, they're buying it from somebody who actually knows what they're selling, and of course that you're able to then be price competitive as well. You've done the research to see what other people are selling things for, done the research to see what kind of information is important about this item that customers are asking about. And so it gives consumers confidence, and frankly, it also makes you found more quickly on the SEO engines because these are the kind of things that people are searching to find this item. Ultimately, having more information allows you to be more searchable, allows you to have more sales.
I think that is such a huge thing of being able to, when someone is searching in your area, that you pop up. What are the most important fields or types of things that you should be entering in to make sure that your SEO is growing?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think we could do a whole episode on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'll try and be brief. So, in general, there's a few different, I think the way to think about this, not just SEO, but also think about search intents, right?
Okay.
So, there's the on-page SEO, but then there's also the understanding your customer aspect. So I'll try and give you both of those, if that makes sense. So the search intents are going to be really related to your marketing. So if you have a promotion and you know that people are going to be searching for that promotion, you want to make sure that promotion is mentioned on the right page on your website, mentioned on the right items. If you have a specific sale or specific item that you're trying to get rid of, get slow moving, you want to make sure that that item is easily searchable for people who are specifically searching for that item, if that makes sense, right? So if you have, a specific Italian designer, it's last year's season, you want to make sure that the brand for that item is called out, the specific SKU and UPC is called out, so that the search intent, the person searching for that item specifically is able to find it quickly, right? So
Okay.
I would say that the SEO piece, firstly, is really a extension of understanding your customer search intents. And then from there, optimizing the various fields. Like, for example, there's a lot of meta tags around the images,
Right.
a lot of, mentioning as I mentioned earlier, the SKU, the specific UPC, various sizing, and then some of the descriptive items like, spring blouse or things like that are also really important. But to sort of weigh and know which of those are the most important, I just want to emphasize understanding your customer search intent, and that will allow you to make sure that you have the right SEO on your website that informs your SEO.
That makes a ton of sense. And so like when they're searching, like it is pulling, black shirt will pull up a lot of black. But the more specific you're getting with those meta tags, as your customers looking for things, it's going to be pulling in more and really recommend you more frequently and the right product that they're looking for.
That's exactly right. I mean, just to make it put a finer point on it, if you call it midnight dress versus black dress.
Sure. Right. Okay. Yeah. So get it something. Again, you get into their head. What would they be searching for that you want to be found when they're searching for that?
Exactly. And some of that stuff, there's some ways to automate a little bit of this, right? I mean, like, as we kind of talked about earlier with, making sure that you have the correct integrations with the marketplaces. Your vendors might have already put some of that information onto the marketplace, like Jor and NewOrder, and you can quickly query that information into Shopify and have that there. You can actually have midnight dress versus black dress already there in your meta tags and in the description of the item, right? On top of that, Shopify does have ways to recommend, based on the image, based on similar items, meta tags for you. And it does hallucinate. You don't want to just take it at face value, but you can at least have a first draft of things to pick from.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that kind of going into AI and automation tools, and that's such a huge win that you can kind of pull that in. Of course, you want to look at it, make sure it's not bringing in something that completely out of left field, but that you have the right information there. But it can do a lot of that work for you. So, that kind of goes into our next really quick win here. The idea of using AI at a small business. I mean, I feel like there's so many that get a little bit intimidated by this, right? It's a big thing. What are some low cost, low stress ways that retailers can jump into AI?
Yeah. There are actually a lot more than you would imagine, but I'll try and I'll focus on a few that I think are, purpose of this episode will have an immediate effect.
Yeah.
On sales and profit and have a high return on investment versus, a longer installation time and a lot of all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Let's go for the quick wins here. I think the first one I mentioned earlier is going to be customer service. We have seen a lot of retailers of ours that we work with just have, 2 to 3 more hours, maybe even 10 hours a week, just not having to deal with a bunch of text messages and emails related to, hey, what's the status of my order? Hey, when is your store open? Hey, I called, never heard back from you. What's happening? Right? Just not having to deal with that relieves your staffs, relieves owners. And that's just in and of itself a huge return on investment, particularly for these apps that, tend to be free or cost a few bucks a month.
Yeah.
The second would be cross-selling and upselling apps. So there are a couple of these different apps out there. There are a few we know of called LimeSpot, AfterSell. There are a lot of them out there. But they really tend to work in the same way. They take local storage as well as cookie data and mix that in with your existing collections and historical sales and use that to recommend the correct item to upsell or to cross-sell on your website on your behalf. So some of the decision making, some of the collections you're making, manually saying if somebody buys this, recommend this. Yeah. That actually will be taken care of by AI on a very personalized manner, and taking into consideration, the customer's historical purchases, the customer's preferences, as well as your own sales data. And then you can, of course, kind of change different parameters for a lot of these apps. Like, hey, this is a slow moving item. Let's try and recommend this more. Okay. This is an item that I know is not as a new item, it's a new collection, we're embarking on something new, so the data for this doesn't exist. So let's manually make it up first, make it be recommended first, and then over time, the AI will then take it from there. So it's not like human intervention is gone, but it does allow for a level of personalization that at scale, when you have 10, 20, 200, 5,000 people visiting the website, is not manageable on a day-to-day basis for one or two people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, that is one thing that you see on like a larger chains, that recommendation, or customers who bought this also bought this. But I mean, that can be done for an independent retailer. Those are things that can really add value, and people, we've almost come to expect things like that. So yeah, it doesn't just have to be your big stores that are doing it. It can be your independent retailers too.
I think customers are expecting it more and more and more nowadays, especially and it kind of goes to the last point, or maybe not the last, but one of the main additional ways that retailers can use AI is going to be in pricing. And so, customers are very aware of what things are cost. I think we're seeing at the retail world, even before some of this tariff craziness, it's already well established that consumers are becoming more and more price sensitive, right? And so AI is also used nowadays to do price matching. So you can nowadays, again, even for a small retailer, have a subset of competitors or have crawlers. It's a fancy way of saying with an agent that's actually going on the web across all the various and finding the same items as you, and to have it recommend to you what prices for your items you should be selling things at, as well as notifying you when competitors or manufacturers who sell similar items are lowering or raising their prices.
Wow. Yeah.
And so there's a couple of apps. There's Precinct, Priceify. There's a couple other ones out there. Some of them are paid. Some of them are free. None of them are like thousands of dollars a month. At the most, you're paying $100 a month, right? But the point is that this is another powerful tool that historically our customers have tried to manually price match against whereas the department store in their area or whatever, right? And now
you're kind of guessing. Yeah,
exactly. You can sort of automate some of that and be notified when your competitors are also changing prices, not necessarily in real time, but in very quick time, like within an hour or two of a price change.
Yeah. So, oftentimes it's that Keystone or 2.2 or 2.5, but it's like, okay, how high could I get this price and people still buy it? Well, you could go on and you could see, the store 5 miles away that's selling this product is selling it for this price. And so we should probably have it somewhere around there, depending on if we have similar customers, and be able to know much more accurately what the price matching should be.
I mean, I think your commentary is very symbolic of what we're seeing all of our customers today kind of really saying the same thing. It's allowing them to have some of the more strategic, higher value questions be answered in real time and to do things on a more personalized basis and really push them again up towards that more value added work, right? And some of the questions you brought up are some of those exact questions that we're hearing. I couldn't do this before. Now I can say, hey, that competitor of mine is selling you for this. Why? They have time to think about the why. Before it was just, oh my God, I have to just change all these prices. And so you can imagine how powerful that kind of stuff is, right? So that's why, again, the point is to kind of talk about quick wins. How do we sort of get free time, have a high return on investment? These are apps that, as long as you have some traffic to your website, particularly, again, I'm going to bring it up. One of the first things we talked about is linking your Shopify to your portals, Instagram, all those things. If just doing that increases your traffic, having these, cross-selling, upselling apps, just puts like a cherry on top, right? Yeah. And there's a compounding effect on the return on your investment for doing these kinds of things. You integrate, you're going to have more sales, people have more traffic. Oh, well, now you have an app that'll assist with customer service. There's a question on your website. AI is answering that. It's not you having to answer every single question. And then from there, you even have the opportunity to cross-sell, upsell on a personalized basis, right? All of this is connected. All of this allows scalability. And scalability means a higher compounded return on your investment of time and money.
Yeah. One thing that when we were talking before, it really stuck with me. You were talking about, these systems, these tools. Right now, they're optional, but we should be doing them in a couple years, and they're going to be essential. And that every retailer needs to be implementing these things. What shift are you seeing happening, and why do you think that?
Yeah, I think, the trend of technology, the trend of being able to provide more value to your customer, that's not just a retail,
Yeah,
that's not just a retail specific trend. As long as there's been business around, that's a trend that's existed forever,
sure. Yeah,
right? And I think, you do see as, tumult comes around, COVID pandemic, shifting, really pushing people towards shifting towards the omnipresent as well as omnichannel and online presence. All that was like kind of now you don't have a choice
yeah,
anymore, right? You're seeing now as well with some of this tariff supply chain issues double down by, our federal government. Now it's, hey, you need this data or else you'll have a very difficult time surviving. And I think that it's not really so much about the if, it's sort of about the when. And there's also the benefit to being not necessarily an early mover, but just being a mover that understands these kinds of tools, technology, and how they can assist your business to really help it grow, to free up your time, to allow you to hire more people, to allow you to open that second location, and still find everything manageable, if that makes sense. And the truth is, your competitors, your other retailers, manufacturers who are selling similar products, they are taking advantage of these things. And so those will be reflected in their pricing and their margins. And so over the course of time, it's sort of just like hey, if the industry is adopting it, it's sort of no longer a nice to have, but a must have.
we have. Yeah. And I feel like once getting ahead of these things and being on top of that, you're learning, you're implementing this, first stage, there's going to be more things coming, right? There's going to be another level. And so you don't want to find yourself too far behind and all of a sudden having to implement all of these other things. The more that you can be on top of and the more you can build that in already, the better you'll set yourself up for success in the future.
Absolutely. And I think it also allows retailers, and we've said this a few times now, but it allows them to really think about their strategic sales and how they're going to try and grow. And it's a differentiating factor over the long term, because having these things in place allows you to then enact upon other opportunities, to think about other promotions. And it's just there's so many different ways that it'll help you grow that it's hard to just mention them all in
Yeah. In 130 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. So I always like to ask, where do you see independent retail and Main Street in 5 years from now? What do you see as kind of the future there?
Yeah, I really think that we're going to begin to see a strong push towards specialization and personalization. I do think that even in the home goods sector, in the apparel sector, we're going to start to see specialization within those categories. So, for example, luxury retailers, they won't just become luxury retailers anymore, but they'll be specific to a certain type of attire or to a certain design aspect. We also have customers that aren't necessarily just in the apparel world, but in the grocery world. They're specializing more and more in a type of food. So, for example, Asian grocery stores really doubling down on making sure that they have Asian groceries versus sort of what you can get at Kroger, at Walmart.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Things that are a little bit different. So, where I'm ultimately trying to go is I believe, that with all these personalization, with all the AI, with all the infrastructure that can come in with this, it will allow for a more robust strategy around your merchandising. That more robust strategy around merchandising will lead to more specialization, and you'll begin to see like differentiation between merchants, not just on their inventory, but how much they know about that inventory, which allows them to sell it better.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, knowing your customer better, knowing exactly what they're looking for, really focusing in and specializing in the product that they would be looking for, you're providing better customer service, providing better, more specialization for them.
Exactly. I mean, the Walmarts out there and the Amazon. You've been to Walmart before. You ask a Walmart associate anything about a product in the shop, they're gonna say, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I know we have in stock, and even that number is usually wrong, right?
Yeah.
But if what customers are going to begin to expect, I think they already are there, is, hey, if you are selling a specific product, they really want you to know about that product, and they want you to specialize in that specific area so you can create value in a way that the larger big box guys cannot. And I think that's what we're going to see. And those that have AI, those that have data, those that are able to answer those questions quickly using, customer service at scale, are going to do a better job at it. Yeah. And that's sort of the consulting that we do today. How do we help retailers implement these systems? How do we help them set up an offshore staff that when AI does hallucinate, does mess up, they still have a human level oversight to make sure the systems are working correctly, and kind of have retail specialists as well. So that's sort of kind of why we exist, basically.
Yeah. And you want that human element in balance with the AI. AI can do a lot of great things, but we do want kind of that human look too, and be able to provide both for.
Yeah, there's a last mile to there, right? I mean, let's go back to the pricing, right? There might be AI tools that can recommend pricing to you, but the AI tool will have to be updated for MAP or for any kind of, set pricing, promotion, sale. If the world is increasing their pricing on something, but you kind of don't want to for a strategic reason, that's the human oversight, right? And so it's not like AI just makes all the problems go away, but it does make it so that you're thinking about the more value-added things in the same processes. And again, that will definitely lead to more specialization. More data does lead to more questions. And so that's kind of where we're going, if that makes sense.
Excellent. Well, Daniel, thank you so much. How can listeners contact you, be in touch?
Yeah, so we have a contact us form on our website, and I'll also make sure, Patrick, to give you my contact information in the podcast, wherever you post this. I'll make sure that my contact information is there.
Fantastic. Well, Daniel, I really appreciate it. I think it's so helpful for our retailers in quick wins, right? Things that we can implement. You're talking save yourself 2-3 hours a week. I don't know any retailer that would turn that down and be like, nah, I want to fill that up with manual work. So
I would hope not.
Well, take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was my interview with Daniel Tadros, the founder and owner of 360 Retail Management. You can find information about them by going to 360retailmanagement.com. Join us next week for another great episode of Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street. Stay safe, shop local, and keep your heart on Main Street. This episode was written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Keiser, with a very special thanks to Daniel Tadros of 360 Retail Management. For more information about Heart on Main Street, you can visit our website, www.heartonmainstreet.org.